Brooks Running has a new shoe for you runners out there. Did you hear that? Better turn up your volume. In fact, turn it up to the max. Introducing the all-new Ghost Max. It's got all kinds of things to make your knees and ankles feel protected, like Max Cushion, Max Soft Landings with DNA Loft V2 foam, and Max Smooth Rides with their Glide Roll Rocker. Feel better on your run with Ghost Max. Learn more at brooksrunning.com.
Vic, what are you doing on the 27th of April?
I'm busy, Hamish.
Oh, what are you doing?
I'm going to be part of the Sober Awkward live show.
Of course you are. Can I come?
No.
Oh.
No, actually, you are invited. You are part of the show. We probably better get rehearsing, actually.
That's a good point. It's going to be an absolute shit fight.
It's actually sold out.
What?
Yeah, so exciting. But the good news is that you can now go onto our Cuppa community and buy tickets to the live stream. They're just $10.
See you there. The kettle's boiled, Vic.
Great. Perfect timing. Just a dash of milk for me, please, mate.
Here you go. Shall we get started then?
Have you ever woken up on a Sunday morning and said, I'm never drinking again, and then found yourself waving $50 at a barman by happy hour?
Are you wondering why everyone else can stop at 1 while you head to a dodgy after-party with a weird bloke called Disco Dave? If so, it might be time to take a deeper look at your relationship with your reliable social crutch, alcohol.
On each episode, we'll investigate our own dysfunctional dealings with booze and find out if it's possible to stop this deeply ingrained habit before things get too messy.
Yep, we're going to open up a shame shed of humiliating drinking stories to help you understand why waking up from a booze coma each weekend with a kebab sticking out of your top pocket might actually be negatively impacting your health.
Hamish and I are here to delve into what it's like being sober, an unwanted warts and all look into why giving up those cheeky pints or putting down those mummy wines will make you feel happier, help your anxiety and mental health, and turn you into the most sparkly, authentic version of you.
Won't that mean I become boring though, Vic?
Well, Hamish, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm Victoria Vanstone.
I'm Hamish Adams-Cairns.
And this is Sober Awkward.
So some of you might know that Vic and I recently went sugar-free together. I did a post on Cuppa with a sort of photograph of my supermarket trolley that was full of really healthy, quite dull stuff like quinoa and chia seeds. And people got really excited and said, you know what? We have been replacing one addiction with another. We're also going to go sugar-free. So yesterday I spent cooking for you, Vic, really.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Isn't it? So
yeah.
I brought in 3 different sugar-free treats.
Excellent.
For you to try. I don't know if this is going to make very dull podcast material or if people are going to be into the sound of you eating.
Okay, yeah, that is a thing.
That is a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one you've got there, that's the raspberry ripple. That's a little frozen one.
Oh, that's really nice.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, tastes just like a normal chocolate.
That's exactly it. Okay, so that's gone down all right. The second one, that is a cheese biscuit.
It smells a little bit like cheesy feet.
Well, it is cheese.
It smells a bit like old man's pants. Not that I know what old man's pants smell like. That's a bit dry and a bit dense, but I appreciate the effort you've put into making that small disc of flaky disc.
That's like the teacher giving the kid full marks for effort when he's done a really bad bit of work.
What's this one? This also looks like a cow turd.
Yeah, that is my version of the Reese's Pieces. That is a peanut butter chocolate treat.
Normally anything with peanuts in is a go for me, but that, I mean, it's very dry.
Oh no, I've ruined the rule.
I can't speak. My mouth has dried out. I can understand where you were going with that, but you might need to try that recipe again.
Is this just you wanting me to cook and give you snacks on the podcast more often?
I don't actually, because I know that you had food poisoning last week after you cooked lunch for your wife. So no, I don't think you should use me as your guinea pig as often as you'd like.
Yeah, Liz, haven't tried these. This is just for you first and then we'll gauge it.
Yeah, just see if I get food poisoning and then test it on your wife. You're going to take those back to the fridge then?
I'm taking them back to the fridge. You don't appreciate it?
Okay. Oh, he's off. He's gone. I'm going to actually pretend to him that I've done really well on my sugar intake, but actually I did really badly this week, but I'm going to keep that a secret. I actually went on a walk yesterday and stopped at the IGA and bought myself a massive bag of chocolates and stuffed them in my face in the car. Anyway, he's coming back. Yes, so thank you for those, Hamish. They were yummy. I'm doing really well on my...
Are you?
Yes, really well. I haven't had any sugar for a week since we last met.
Oh.
It is a total success.
I'm feeling complete smugness about it. You know how you get smug in early sobriety? I'm feeling that tenfold in sugar sobriety. Sugar sobriety.
Sugar
We could call it-
sobriety.
Yeah, I
I
guess we
don't
call
know.
that. We're going to do a whole other podcast series on sugar.
Sobriety.
Interesting. Yeah, something in like give the fruck up. I reckon there's something in that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, give it the fruck up.
Give the fruck up.
Yep.
Fructose, in case
We'll work on
you were
that.
wondering.
Look at my sheet. I've got chocolatey fingers all over
Yeah.
my white
Perfect.
papers.
So, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we've done our sugar episode.
Yeah.
Today we're having a difficult conversation, Hamish. We're going to be talking about getting sober and living with a partner that still drinks. This is a topic that is emailed to us all the time and discussed on our cuppa community. The subject line is always the same. Help, my partner still drinks.
Well, today we are here to help. We want to investigate how sobriety affects relationships, the resentment created when a loved one won't address a drinking habit, if it's possible to help your partner quit, how to set a good example, and if they don't show interest in change, how do you accept it, or do you just end it there?
Gosh, yeah, it is big topic, Hamish, because it's quite harsh, some of it. And I must say, in this episode, we just want to put a disclaimer out there that luckily Hamish and I, as we will talk about later, have had quite good responses to our sobriety from our life partners. So we're just going to give you our opinion on this, and then we've collated the opinions of others. We've put the questions out there to our communities to find out what's been going on with them. Today, Hamish, we're asking the big questions. Do relationships in which one person is sober and the other is a problem drinker ever survive? If so, how? We hope by the end of this episode, you will have less resentment and understand why it's important to have good communication and why you should keep your eyes on your own paper.
Let's start by telling you about how this has worked out in our own family dynamics. We both had positive relationship outcomes from going sober. Our partners respect our choices, but that is not always how this one plays out.
It certainly is not. I gave you a task this week, didn't I, Hamish? Apart from not eating sugar, I gave you a separate
You
task.
did. You set me homework.
I did.
This is beginning to feel more like work and less like fun.
That's always my aim.
Yeah, you always want to be my teacher and I have to be the student.
Yeah,
I don't like
yeah.
the power play.
Oh yeah,
in
when
this.
does it change? When do you evolve?
It's when you ruffle my hair on my way out is what I don't like.
Who's a cheeky little lad?
Stop squeezing my cheeks. So yeah, my homework was that you asked me to ask Liz 2 questions. Now, bear in mind, I gave up as a non-problem drinker, so my situation would be slightly different to a lot of people listening. But the first question, you'll hear her voice. We've never had a 4-voice podcast.
We
This
have
is gonna
never
be a
had our partners
4-voicer.
on the podcast.
Never.
No.
This is proof that they exist.
This
or
is
we
proof.
just know people who've got voices that aren't ours.
Yeah, we've just brought some actors in.
Wrote a script. So yeah, the first question that I asked Liz was what she thought about me giving up drinking.
So I guess in the beginning, to be honest, my first initial thought was, oh no. I think, if I'm completely honest, I think a lot of our relationship was going out and drinking with our friends all weekend, going out dancing and partying. And I'd thought, oh no, that's the end to having fun. How do we have fun together? But over the months, I love it. You know, we've sort of created new things that we like to do to spend time together and, you know, enjoy each other's company instead of going out drinking, like cooking. Hamish has found love for the kitchen and baking and cooking. So that's something that we do together. Obviously, we have a baby now. So, you know, creating memories like that instead of going out and getting wasted is better. So, yeah, it took a while to get used to, if I'm completely honest.
And next up, I asked her how my sobriety has affected her own alcohol intake.
Well, the timing, I guess, was on our side because when you gave up drinking, obviously, we had a newborn baby. I hadn't drank for 10 months because I was pregnant, obviously. I still have the occasional drink with friends, but yeah, it's changed my outlook on drinking, the way that we talk about alcohol. You know, we have no alcohol in the house anymore. I feel like it's changed everything, the way that we look at alcohol. I think it's quite inspirational, and I think it's changing the way that a lot of people think about drinking.
You did the same for John, didn't you, Vic?
Yeah, I did. Here's what he had to say. Right, let's just welcome my husband John into the Sober Awkward studio. Hello, John.
Hey, Victoria, how are you?
Victoria, oh dear, I'm in trouble, that's for sure. Before I ask you the same questions as Hamish asked Liz, I'm just going to ask you a different one because I was obviously more of a problem drinker than Hamish. When I was having that huge anxiety after our first child was born, what did you think when I went out promising not to overdrink and then coming back absolutely plastered and having anxiety the next day? How come you didn't tell me to stop directly?
Well, we were thinking about that at the time. We were always talking about not going out drinking because of how it made you feel. It was always kind of going through that process of, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it, and then going out and coming back drunk again. So we were actively discussing it, but it was just so hard to actually break the cycle, I think.
Yeah, because I couldn't moderate. So therefore I'd go out with good intentions and then I'd only want to have one and then I'd have two and then my anxiety would be gone and then I'd go mad. And then, of course, you were the only person that really saw me when I was hungover in bed, crippled by anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I would just take George out, would go scooting in the rain or go for a walk down just to try and give you the space to recover and start feeling a bit better.
Isn't that awful, really, that I kept putting you through that? I apologise about that. Sorry, John. I was drinking too much.
Don't watch it. You'll make me cry if you carry on like that.
Sorry about that. So must ask now, what did you think when I decided to give up drinking? When I came to you that morning, really hungover and said, I can't do this on my own. I need to get professional help.
It's good. It was all good. I mean, because we've been going through this cycle of talking about it but not actively achieving the goal. So to actually sit down and go, I need to get help, how do we do that, is amazing, because that was an additional step forward, I suppose. It's just something new, something different to try.
And I guess you were surprised that I was just going to take a step that was kind of outside of myself, because I'd been failing so long at stopping myself that you felt sort of, what, proud or concerned? What were your feelings when I came in that morning?
Well, it's proud and happy that we're going to try and change things. You know, and we didn't consider it a problem drinking. So I think we've both gone through the phase of thinking we can just stop at any time. It doesn't matter. I don't need help because I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not drinking bottles of vodka in the morning. But it wasn't working. So to actually have that solution of, you know, getting professional help and counselling was actually a really sensible thing to do.
Yeah, because it was a problem, even though we say like I wasn't drinking vodka in the morning. It was a problem because I couldn't stop doing something that I hated. And as a looker on, I guess it is concerning to see someone damaging themselves so much. And, you know, I used to sit in my bed, I always say this, with my finger on my pulse thinking I was going to die. It must have been quite alarming for you to see that, how it affected my mental health. So how has me getting sober affected your drinking?
Initially, I suppose I was just drinking less. Even when I gave up, 6 months ago, I was only really having 4 or 5 beers a week.
Yeah.
So I wasn't drinking that much. Just having a drink, I suppose, is what the...
Just because of habit more than anything else. John's never really been a problem drinker. It hasn't really affected him negatively or had impacts on his life. But now you've quit completely. I haven't said a word to you or asked him to quit or anything, but you have naturally come to a halt with your drinking. Why do you think that is?
I wasn't enjoying it anymore. It just sort of came to a natural progression, natural end for me, because I just didn't feel like I needed to put that in my body anymore.
And you think being around someone who is changing and evolving around you does make you think, well, why am I doing this?
Oh, definitely, because, you know, I hear and listen and talk to you and see what the science is, what's going on and how it's affecting people. So naturally that is a sort of a change, a mental change going on in me, whereby I can see that. It's probably just drip fed over time, you know, and then one day, July, August, whenever it was, I just was like, well, I don't really need to drink that anymore.
Yeah, well done. I'm very proud of you.
I'm proud of you, my darling.
Oh, don't make me cry. You fuck off now. Well done, John, for being...
Love you, darling.
Yeah, love you. Bye.
It's amazing how your sobriety has affected him in such a good way.
I know, it's amazing. I can't believe it, really. But there's part of me, my old drinking brain suddenly switches on when I think about him giving up drinking.
Yeah, go on.
And a bit like you, my old brain goes, well, if you didn't have a problem, why would you quit? But of course, that is everything I'm against. But for some reason in my brain, I still think, oh, John, you're a bit boring now.
Yeah.
I can't believe that booze bully still resides within me somewhere. So imagine what I'd be like if I was still drinking and he would quit. I would be pissed off with him, I can imagine. Yeah, definitely. I think I probably would have left him because I was so deep within my drinking habit. If my partner had stopped drinking, I'd just think, God, what's wrong with you? This is never going to work. So I can understand how these relationships get tetchy when somebody is still drinking.
I think for sure when I was single, I've had the thought there's no way I could date someone who was sober.
Yeah.
Because it plays such a role in like the ice breaking of a first date. And I just thought, God, I think I would struggle.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have anything in common at that age, in my 20s, even in my teen years. I wouldn't have had anything in common with someone that didn't drink. And that's awful to say now. And I wouldn't have gone near anyone that didn't drink because I thought, well, they're not like me, so therefore we're not going to get on. Part of me still feels that, even though of course I know it's better that he didn't drink and I'm so happy about it. That outweighs all of that. But there's this little inkling inside my brain that goes, oh, come on, you're boring.
Yeah, let's face it, we're lucky and our partners can see the positives of us ditching the booze. It seems it's not only made them think about their own habits, but also makes them more gracious towards our choices. This, of course, is not always the case.
No, unfortunately not. Let's talk about the loss of a drinking buddy and the problem of drinking being the only thing you have in common, exactly like we just said. How did you meet Liz, Hamish? Was booze involved in that one?
Yeah, massively.
Right.
So we both were off the back of fairly painful breakups and we were partying our way through it.
Okay.
So we met at the start. I think she says it in her answer. We met at the start of party time. I don't know what would have happened if one or both of us had been sober. It would have been a very different story. Whether or not it ended with us being married and having kids, I'm not 100% sure. I think that because we drank a lot during those early stages, I sort of look back at it as we got away with it. Like we got away with the fact that everything worked out in the end. Because it's pretty volatile. Like,
it is volatile.
If both of you drink a lot, it can be more arguments. Also, everyone, I think, has got people that they only have memories of getting drunk with. And then on a morning when you're feeling good about yourself and don't want to drink, you're like, well, I can't meet up with them because every time I meet up with them, we get plastered. So you sort of cut them out of your life. So I think we did get away with it and we could easily not have done.
But also because you don't know whether you're going to like that person sober. So then you've been drinking together for all these years when you're in the early stages of a relationship. And then you have to get to know someone without alcohol in them. And after all that's happened, all that partying, you find that actually you might not like that person.
Yeah.
You only like the fun side of them. And suddenly you've got to deal with the serious side of them. And that changes things. Do you think Liz feels like she's lost a drinking buddy?
100%. That's definitely how she feels. But I think over time, she's realised that that's not necessarily a bad thing. When people say to me, are you giving up for a year? And I go, well, I don't know. I don't think I'll stop at a year. I think I'll carry on. She's always like, oh, hang on. I did not sign up to that. That's like the joke that we always say. And I guess there is an element of truth in it because I didn't have a problem. You and I went for a walk and I came back and I said, Liz, I'm going to be sober now. She had no forewarning, I should just get dumped in it.
I do feel guilty about that a little bit. I feel like I've taken her drinking buddy away a little bit. But I know that is your choice and I can't take responsibility for that. Like I asked you to come in here so that we could see the journey of a normal drinker. And I gave you the opportunity to say no.
Yeah.
But you said yes. But I do feel with Liz, like maybe she's like, God, that bloody Vicky, she's made my husband boring. Well, of course, Hamish is not boring. That's the whole point.
I think she looks at it as the cost that we both pay for the podcast. She's like, the podcast is obviously like a good thing that you should be doing with your life. You've got to give up alcohol for it. I have to like live with you being sober for the amount of time that we do it for. But like for the greater good of the podcast, which could help people, that's both the price that we'll pay. I think that's how she now looks at it.
Good on her. She's doing a public service.
She is.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time as that, it's made her more aware of alcohol in society. Like she sees it a lot. She sees what we see, even though she still drinks a bit. She's like, God, it's wild how much it comes up. Like, it's wild how much sobriety's been spoken about at the moment. It's wild how much you see it on TV or films, or how even politicians normalise, like Barack Obama having a Guinness in Dublin. Whatever it is. She sees it through our eyes.
Yes.
Now she sees the bad side of it.
Okay, which is exactly what's happened with John.
I think John's just further down the line.
Further down the line.
Was John your main drinking partner?
We met when we were drunk and we went out drinking on our first date. But our relationship was the first relationship I've ever had that was not completely drenched in booze. We had gone on dates in the morning. In fact, our first ever lunch together was a lunch without alcohol involved. And I think that was the only time I'd ever gone on a date where alcohol was not on the menu. So I knew at that point that I wanted to change a little bit, and that the relationships that I was having that were based around alcohol weren't working, and I knew I was looking for something else. I didn't know that alcohol was the basis of that, but actually I realised now that that's what it was. I was looking for somebody more stable that didn't drink as much as I drank. So I think I was subliminally searching that out.
I'm surprised that you didn't drink at that lunch.
I think I was trying to put forward a different image of myself at that point. I'd made a mental decision to come across as more, I don't know, what's the word?
Responsible, grown up.
Yeah, more responsible. I wanted
wife
to come
material.
Yeah, I wanted to come
Yeah.
across as wife material and childbearing material, not some bloody drunk that I'd been for all these years.
Yeah.
And we had kids very soon after we met, and I stayed with him because I could see within him that I could possibly have a life that wasn't just a massive piss up.
Yeah. Have you been in relationships in the past with people that drunk more than you? Have you been through that cycle of going, oh God, it's another piss up person?
I always went out with people who either drank equally to me or more than me.
Right.
Of course, my Thai boyfriend was an example of the more than. His drinking made him a bit angry, and it scared me sometimes, and I would try and get him to slow down. He used to drink that rice wine that they make in that local brew, and it used to be quite frightening because his eyes would go red, and I knew that it was in a blackout and didn't know what he was doing. And that did scare me, but I felt like I couldn't ask him to stop because I was still drinking. So that I was in a sort of hypocritical land where if I said to him, please slow down, it didn't seem like the right thing to do because I was the one still sat at the bar with a bottle of Sang Sum whiskey. Like, where's the line drawn there?
I think a lot of people listening to this episode will be in that position.
Yeah.
So I think people listening to this episode, some will be sober with a partner that still drinks, or they'll both drink and one will be concerned about the other one drinking too much.
Yeah, and that's difficult, isn't
It's
it?
difficult because, do you just both go sober?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier to just both go sober.
It would be, yeah.
Than to sort of stand on your high horse and tell them to cut down when you're drinking.
Yeah, very, very hard. Put yourself in a difficult position if you are still drinking. I mean, I left him in the end because I knew that he would never quit and his problem was much, much deeper than mine. I did point the finger at him at various stages when he was over drinking.
The stub.
Yeah, the stump. I pointed the stump. I cursed him with my stump. But I just knew he didn't want to listen. And also he was like that before he met me. So part of me thought, well, I can't. He's always been like this. I'm not going to change him and I'm not going to try and change him. It's up to him. Even though I wanted him to change, I didn't feel it was my responsibility to take that on. I knew that he had to make that decision himself. Unfortunately, he died last year from alcohol-related illness. Yeah. In fact, when I went to Thailand, there were 4 missing faces from people that I used to know, all of them from alcohol-related deaths. It was very ingrained in the Thai culture to drink and to if you have enough money, you buy a bottle of whiskey to share it with your mates, especially in the male culture. The women don't really drink. It's kind of a show of wealth and prosperity to buy a drink for your friends. And it wasn't a sustainable lifetime. I left. He stayed on running bars and everything like he did. And unfortunately, he did pass away last year. I'm glad I left that life because I think I would have gone down the same road. There was no consequences to drinking because you just opened up the bar the next day and you carried on. But it definitely had negative effects on our relationship. We were always arguing. He was always drunk. I was always drunk. It was a mess, really. It wasn't a fun relationship to be in. He was a lovely guy. He had a good heart, like most people do. But the alcohol really took something away from him and made him quite angry sometimes. If you would like to support the Sober Awkward podcast, we're excited to announce that we've joined Patreon. Patreon is a membership platform which allows you to give back for the content you love.
By buying Sober Awkward a cuppa once a month, we can keep the giggles coming and continue sharing our sobriety message.
By joining Patreon, you get access to Sober Awkward merch, extra content, special promos and loads more. Just find the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com and search for Sober Awkward.
And together we can learn how to feel the awkward and do it anyway.
Hamish, have you ever had a relationship in which one person drank too much?
Well, No Game Ham has not had a lot of relationships,
Yes.
Vic, as you well know. So I only really had one before my current one. And current one makes it sound like it's going to...
it might end soon.
My current wife.
Yeah, well, she better play her cards right, isn't she?
So, I only really had one relationship before. She was like a mega lightweight. So actually, she probably drunk less than me, but got drunker.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So, although when I first met Liz, we were both drinking heavily. And I think because of that, so Liz and I, our anniversary, the day we started going out was June 30th. And I suggested that we both do Dry July that year. So like day one of our relationship was both of us giving up drinking.
But wait a second, I'm going to pause you there.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny, Hamish, how we call you the normal drinker and we're like, oh yes, he can take it and leave it. But the first day of your relationship with somebody who you drank with, you want to do Dry July. Was that because you wanted to experience a real relationship rather than one that was just drowning in alcohol?
I think so. And I thought she parties too much. I thought I wrote this in my wedding
Okay,
plan.
this is interesting. So you went, ha ha ha, let's do Dry July, won't it be fun? Thinking, actually, I think she parties too much.
Yeah. So I was doing it for her, really.
Oh, God, that's
'Cause
interesting.
my first impression
Does she
of her,
know this?
Yeah, she knows this.
Okay.
My first impression of her was, I say it in my wedding speech, which I'll tell you in a second. Remember, I did that poem.
Yeah.
And my first impression was that she's obviously like wild and great fun, but you don't marry the wild, great fun one, right?
No.
So I said in my wedding speech, I remember thinking this Liz girl is fun, but is she the one? Can I see her wiping the bum of my son?
Oh, yes.
So that was my first thought. So I thought, let's both do Dry July. And it was probably that situation we spoke about. I was like, well, I can't tell her to do it, but if we both do it, then it's sort of okay.
I guess it's a good test as well to work out if somebody can give up alcohol the next day, like if they're a real over drinker or an alcoholic, because most people wouldn't.
Yeah.
And also, I would have just, if that were me, I'd just go, oh, fuck off, mate.
Well, we weren't even living together. I was
tell me what to do.
living on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and she was in Sydney, so I don't actually see her a lot that month that we gave up.
That's crazy. Well, it
Yeah.
shows you were meant to be together. I guess you knew quite early on because you were both of a sane mind.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good test because although I've not been in relationships with people that have drunk more, I've definitely had these flings which have like carried on. Just one of you's drunk, and then you end up hooking up with the other one.
Yeah,
and they fizzle. Inevitably they fizzle because at some point you've got to have a serious conversation and take it to the next step.
Yeah.
So I think I can relate to that. Like I understand people being in relationships with people and it just lasts forever and you just get hammered all the time.
Yeah.
And eventually there's a day when you're like sitting with them at breakfast sober and go, I have got nothing to say to this person.
Yeah, I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
All we do is drink together. This is what our relationship is based on. And I think a hell of a lot of relationships are based upon alcohol. One of my first boyfriends I had, a lovely brummy guy that I went out with for years, I met him on a night out and we ended up going out for 2 years and we never really knew each other. I mean, we got on really well, but the beginning of our relationship was solely based on these couples of nights out that we had per week where we were drinking, and the rest of the time our lives are going on with each other. We live together, but we're kind of just planning for the next time we can connect, which was going out drinking.
Yeah. And it's difficult to describe just how mundane life is when you're married with young kids, that you need to have a strong bond to get through it. It's very, very easy to get on with someone when you're both drunk.
Yeah.
Very easy. But can you get on when you are staying inside, cleaning up poo whilst the other one does the dishes?
I guess this is exactly why marriages fall apart sometimes when alcohol is out of the equation, because suddenly you have to deal with the reality of the relationship. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of the listeners. Those that have emailed us, given up drinking and have a partner that just can't fathom it. I've created a list from all of the emails we received.
Yeah, so this is a list of how people feel, right?
Yeah.
So as a sober person with a partner still drinking, people talk about feeling triggered. They don't want to be around it. They don't love you enough to stop. They begin to feel resentment, scared. They ask questions to themselves like, was alcohol all we had in common? They feel unseen and unheard. And often we get people saying that they feel like they want to punish them. It makes them want to drink just to spite them. And so obviously it can affect your own sobriety. There are lots of raw and confronting emotions towards that drinking partner.
Yes, I can feel that resentment. Like even within me, I would imagine how that would feel. And I felt that with that Thai boyfriend. It's like, why can't you stop? You can see that this is ruining everything. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
If you're the person still drinking, you might feel like you've lost your best mate. You don't think you really have a problem and you are really annoyed that you have to drink alone now. Also, your sober partner is probably forcing you to secretly question why you keep drinking, and that's probably making you drink more. Basically, their sobriety is making your drinking difficult, and it can feel like a real betrayal.
So you can hear from this why there'll be problems if one person is still drinking. It causes resentment and disappointment on both sides of the relationship.
Yet giving up alcohol throws a spanner in the works. Love means you both want to be on the same page, but the presence of alcohol causes massive friction. So are these fractious relationships salvageable? When two people are on two very different paths, can it ever work?
I think it's a good question. I'm sure lots of people will be asking it to themselves. I think basically some are salvageable and some aren't. Depends how deep the hurt and how likely it is that you can reach a place of understanding. But honestly, if you're sober and your partner drinks heavily, there's always this potential of tension.
Yeah, even if you try and accept it and you do everything you can, there's always going to be a part of you just like, oh, please do this for me.
Yeah, it's going to be lingering there.
In sobriety, you start to really live and experience life, and booze can make you stagnant. You might leave that person behind when sobriety works its magic on you. The person you are with, if they are drinking, won't be able to catch up, perhaps forever.
So let's hear from the couple members. How do they feel about partners that still drink?
Miranda said she left a relationship of 6 years, largely in part to alcohol being something that was such a big part of his life. She couldn't have it to be part of hers. Alcohol was the cause of many unremembered fights and hurtful things said, sloppy conflicts within her family. It was really difficult and a shitty cycle to be in.
I've had so many drunk arguments with a partner that I can't remember.
Yeah, you never really know how they start or what the point is.
Never about anything.
And all those shows on TV, like those terrible like Maths and those like sort of Geordie Shore, the arguments that they have on those, I was sit there thinking, you're arguing about nothing.
Yeah.
None of you even know what you're talking about. It's absolutely pointless. And they're fighting in the streets and the girls are crying and all these things. Nobody even knows what they're doing. No. It's always alcohol related. None of them argue when they're sober.
I would say I've never had an argument sober, ever.
Really? That's amazing.
No. Always drunk about pointless crap.
Yeah, it's stupid, isn't it?
Anyway, Mel said, I've never expected my husband to quit with me. He hasn't, and it's become very obvious to me how much his drinking is actually a problem. I absolutely resent what this habit is doing to him.
Gosh, yeah. So she's given up drinking. He's carried on, and she's realised that he does have a problem because she's now has more clarity and can see his actions and what's happening to him. That is an interesting one.
And her smugness will be irritating to him for sure.
Yes, yeah, it's so two-sided. Ned says, I can say 100% that my ex-wife's drinking and my drinking was central to us ruining our marriage. Plain and simple.
So sad, isn't it? Carly wrote to us and said, my husband still drinks and I'm starting to hate him. Every day I watch him as he opens another bottle and I can't believe he's doing it in front of me. I feel like he's rubbing it in, teasing me. I have thoughts of leaving but wonder if I will just meet someone else that does the same.
Of course, that is a chance. There's not many sober people around.
Yeah. Join Cuppa. Well, she's on Cuppa.
Yeah, join Cuppa.
We can set her up.
Yeah, set her up.
Loads of sober men on
go.
Cuppa. Yeah. That's it. We'll just put all of these people together.
Yeah. We'll sort it out after the show. Steve-O says, my wife drinks a lot. She loves me sober and knows I had to do it for my own health. But for some reason, she still thinks it's okay for her to drink loads of wine with her friends most weekends. It makes me feel annoyed and she thinks it's normal because I was the one with the problem. She can't see the bigger picture or that it makes me feel uncomfortable. It's causing lots of arguments and I'm not sure what will happen.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a decline there, isn't there, since he's got sober?
I can see that. Funny enough, Liz always asks me if her drinking annoys me. She's like, am I being disrespectful? Is it annoying that I'm doing it? Like, she's super conscious of her drinking in front of me. And I'm like, and you'd have had the same when John did drink. Like, it doesn't faze me at all.
But it's because they don't have a problem.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And I think here we're talking about people, their drinking is a problem. The partner's drinking is a problem. I think being around people who are casual drinkers that have one or two occasionally where they don't cross the line and they don't feel like they need it, that wouldn't be triggering. But these people are with people who are over drinking and that's what's causing the problem.
Fair. That's why Liz and I have both given up sugar because I do have a problem with sugar. If she was still eating sugar, if there were Snickers in the house, I'd be eating Snickers.
Yes, so true.
Dania wrote to us and said, I need help. I don't know what to do. I'm sober and love my sober life, yet my partner is a big drinker. I love him and he loves me. I used to think we were the perfect couple. We drank lots together and now I've stopped, we're drifting apart. Everything I say sounds like nagging. The more I try and approach the topic, the more he drinks. How can I help someone that does not want to be helped? I know he would be so much happier sober.
Yeah, so there's that feeling there. It's really heavy. It's like a really heavy feeling of, I love you and I want you to experience what I'm experiencing in my sober life and I want you to be part of this. But of course, it's just not as simple as that.
That's sort of the perfect example, that one. We get that one a lot. They're asking advice and there's so little that we can offer to help. What do you do in that situation? I don't know. I guess it's seeking therapy, it's professional help.
Yeah.
It's so many people find themselves in this situation and it's heartbreaking.
Well, this is why we get this email all the time.
Yeah.
People say, what do I do? Help, my partner still drinks. And I find it very, very difficult to answer. So what we're going to come up with here is just a few ways that you can have this conversation with people. And we'll find out later if there's any real action you can take.
Yes.
So how do you help someone that is not ready?
So, instead of nagging or feeling sad and resentful, what things can you do to help your partner see your side of the sober story? What are some practical ways of helping them rather than just stewing on it or arguing over it?
Oh, and stewing on it doesn't help, does it either? Because then you're just going to get really angry with that person quietly on your own, and that's not good for you.
That would be me, just passive aggressively cleaning dishes.
Making lots of noise as you put forks away.
Yeah.
The first thing to do is have an honest chat. Don't go gun-ho. This is a very provocative time for both parties, and it might take a bit of preparation. Plan what you're going to say ahead of time. Write it down. What points do you want to raise here?
Right. Consider your timing. Choose a good and appropriate time to raise your concerns. This has to be a time when your partner is sober and in a good headspace.
Be sensitive and show empathy. Empathy means experiencing the world from the person's perspective without judgment or criticism.
Remember how you felt. Treat them like you would have wanted to be treated, with kindness, and let go of the resentment you feel just for a moment.
Oh, it's hard. That is hard, isn't it?
Easier said than done.
You've just got to let it go. You've got to take a deep breath and just, really let that resentment go for a moment if you want to have a decent chat with someone. Avoid arguing, confronting, blaming, shaming and lecturing do not invite change. They invite resistance.
Tell them how it is affecting you and show your concern for them. Tell them you love them and that you want to help.
Yeah, that's exactly what John did to me.
That's the angle.
Yeah.
I want to help.
Yeah, I want to help and I'm trying to understand you. Tell them about your sobriety and why it makes you happy. They may be feeling shame, guilt and embarrassment about their drinking. Hearing that you felt the same at some point may help them confide in you and get some help themselves.
Don't use blaming or accusatory language such as you need to get help, you're messing things up, you need to change.
Yeah, that does not work.
No.
I mean, it feels tempting to do that, but that isn't going to work. Instead, take a collaborative approach with phrases like, I'm here for you, I want to support you, I want to hear from you. I've noticed these things about you. These can make your partner feel less isolated and more convinced you want to help them.
Keep in mind your partner may not be ready to manage their addiction. Give them some time to sit with what you've said. Leave them with something like, let's talk about this again in a few days and see how we both feel then. I'd really like to work through this together.
I know at this point, Hamish, that if John had said to me in those moments when I was waking up with that terrible anxiety, you need to stop drinking, which he never once said, I would not have listened.
Yeah. What did he say?
We just had ongoing conversations about it over many, many weeks,
Right.
about me trying to slow down and trying to just have one, because it was never on my radar to stop drinking completely. I was always trying to learn how to moderate. So when I went out, I would say, yes, I'm going to try and do better. I don't want to have a hangover tomorrow because I've got to look after the kids. And then I would go out and I would completely fail. So then we'd have the conversation again. What can we do? What can we do to make this better? It was always the aim at moderation. But then, of course, when moderation fails for so long, you have to confront the reason why it's failing, which is what we did eventually. And I think if he'd just said to me, you've got to quit drinking, it was too harsh.
Yeah.
It was too strong words that I would have just backed off and gone, no way, and perhaps never sought help because it had been someone else's decision and not mine.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of having these conversations and keeping those lines of communication open about what is happening to you.
Yeah, so have those conversations over a long time. I guess that's a good piece of advice.
Not too long.
Really, you can't. Yeah, true. Yeah, but someone can only give up when they're ready.
Yeah, totally.
Not when you want them to be ready.
Yeah.
So it might take some time.
Might take some time. If you've tried all of these already and it's not working, if these types of conversations just lead to your partner storming off and thinking you're a bit of a smug, sober twat, then there has to be another route, Hamish.
Yeah. The worry is all this confrontation might be affecting your own sobriety path. Living with an alcoholic can be extremely taxing on your own well-being. This is especially true in the case of an alcoholic husband or wife. So, the gentle conversation failed. What now? You can't force someone to give up drinking, can you?
You can't, actually. It is so difficult to watch someone close to you suffer. However, remember that you cannot force someone to seek help. Treatment is a decision that your loved one will need to make on their own. Becoming overly invested in your partner's well-being may be defined as codependency, and this can be detrimental to your own mental health. So be careful and have boundaries in place. Don't let their drinking affect your sobriety.
That keeps making me think of how in AA, on the films, in AA, you're not allowed to date someone from AA.
Yes, you're not allowed to. No,
That's
you're
the
not
rule.
supposed to, because it would create conflict, especially if one of them starts drinking. That is definitely going to make you think, oh, well, maybe I can have one too.
So Vic, what's the best way to influence someone you love going sober?
I think the answer is, Hamish, is to just be sober. That is where the true magic layeth, young Master Hamish.
You did say that your sobriety has had some good effects on your family, but not everything that you have done in your life has had good effects on your family. Little story about your youngest son.
Well, yeah, Freddie has started saying the F word all the time. He's only 4. And I know that I probably say it. So my giving up drinking is definitely a good effect and had ripples throughout my family. Even my family in England, my sister-in-law Claire is now sober, and throughout the world with this podcast.
Sure.
There are some things in which I am still a terrible influence. And I swear quite a lot. I'm going to stop now because it's obviously having detrimental effect on my 4-year-old. But the other day, my daughter was crying and he just walked past her and went, stop fucking crying.
Oh, I was going to say, does he use it in a sense, does he use it well?
He uses it very well. So I almost want to just say, oh, well done. That's quite good usage. But obviously I have to, well, part of me doesn't want to pull him up on it. And part of me is like, well, that's pretty good usage.
It is quite funny.
Yeah. And every time I say, right, Freddie, it's time to go to bed, he's got this phrase where he sounds like a kind of drunk old Irishman where he goes, you're the worst fucking mother.
No.
I don't know where he's got it from, because I've never said that, but they just all go through a bit of a sweary stage. Please don't judge me. I'm doing my best to stop it. But yeah, I can still be a bad influence in other ways.
Yeah, it's bad because children swearing is always funny, but if you laugh, then they do it more.
Yeah, it's like that kid on the internet, isn't it? Like that saying, there's a fucking goat out there. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I don't know why I always say it in an Irish accent.
The fucking goat. We need to put the fucking goat.
I will share the fucking goat video because it is funny.
On.
Children swearing is funny, let's face it.
I know.
But it's probably not good parenting.
That's fair. So, Vic, how does you just being sober help people?
It's essential that when you get sober and your partner doesn't want the same thing, that you keep your eyes on your own paper. By this, I mean you concentrate on you and you lead by example. Just by being sober and staying sober, this will be your secret weapon, your pièce de la résistance, your plat de jour and your tour de France, Hamish. Just be sober and they will notice.
Well, that's worked in your life. So even though John didn't have a problem with drinking, it took you being sober for 5 years until he actually went sober himself?
4.5 years,
4.5 years.
Yeah, it took a while.
Can work.
Yep.
So yeah, just keep doing you. Let them observe and they will catch on. Over time, they will absorb what you've done and they will make their own choice to stop. I've seen this happening a lot, and as the sober scene gains popularity, I hope this process will get quicker and easier for everyone. The more people that are leading by example, the better.
Yeah, and just society evolving a little when it comes to alcohol will help drinking partners self-reflect on their own habit. Things are changing, Hamish, so hopefully this conversation gets easier. I think we have a little caveat here, don't we, Hamish? The unfortunate thing is that sometimes none of the above works. Alcohol, of course, is a drug, and the addiction is deep, and it's hard to address and can go on for years. And for some people, it has to get really, really bad before things can possibly turn around. They might be in too deep. Your words are probably falling on deaf ears and your actions are ignored. What do you do when enough is enough? When do you choose you?
Yeah, this is pretty heavy stuff at this stage, Vic, but I guess everyone has got a breaking point. When is it time to relieve the relationship or the marriage with an alcoholic altogether is a tough question to ask.
There are so many reasons a person chooses to stay with an alcoholic, but it often boils down to fear. People may be fearful of living without their significant other or subjecting children to their parents' separation. Although the fear may be there, it's no reason to stay in a relationship which makes you unhappy or puts you in danger. Also, there's a funny thing that sobriety does. It gives you clarity. So you may be in a relationship for years and years that has never really worked, like we talked about earlier. That you may have had drinking as the only thing you had in common. And then suddenly you're sober and you can see where the relationship's been going wrong because of the clarity that your brain function is starting to work again gives you. Sobriety may reveal to you that an old relationship that you've just been staying in because it was easier, it might be that your sobriety teaches you to be brave enough to act on something that isn't working.
If your partner's committed to getting help and is ready to make a change, the best choice may be to stay with them and support them on their recovery journey. On the other hand, if you're stuck in an unhealthy relationship full of lies, arguments or abuse, or you've simply had enough of their desire to keep on the booze, it may be best to leave. This is especially true if you've given your significant other the opportunity to enter treatment, quit, shove books under their nose and had endless serious chats, but they've continued to refuse or deny that there is a problem. Bit of tough love, eh, Vic?
Yeah, tough love, unfortunately, is sometimes the only thing that works. I think there comes a point when you have to choose your sobriety as well. Choose you because you deserve to be happy. Just remember that. You deserve to live your full sober life. And if someone is trying to destroy that and will not budge when it comes to booze, you may have to consider making some pretty tough choices.
Yeah, this was a hard-hitting episode today, Vic. I'm so grateful to both Liz and John for understanding why we chose this path. And I can't imagine what it would be like to have a partner struggle with alcohol and feel like there's nothing you can do to help. It must feel stressful. Don't forget, if you want to chat about this topic, just go on Cuppa, find others that are going through this difficult time too, and try to get some professional input. It's always great to get another point of view so the responsibility is not all on you. See a doctor, a therapist, have some joint counselling.
Yeah, I think, Hamish, in this podcast, we've tried to cover every possibility here. And whatever works for you is the right thing to do. You've got to try and make yourself feel happy. And if that partner isn't making you feel happy anymore, it's time to address it. There are lots of routes to take nowadays. You know, doing your research and finding out about this online is a really good place to start once the conversation is started as well. Talking about this and seeking support will help you decide what is best for you and your partner. We hope, of course we do, that you make it through this confronting time. We'd actually love to hear some stories about couples that have given up drinking together and see how that works. Like, is that the same result? Does everybody get happy or does everybody get resentful? We don't know. So just email us at vicandhamish@soberawkward.com. Our quote for the day is, "The world is changed by your example, not your opinion."
Lovely.
Yeah, so don't go saying, you've got to give up, you've got to do this, you've got to do that just because you've done it. It's not going to work. You've got to take it slow and have some deep and meaningfuls here, haven't you, Haim?
Yeah, I've actually just thought of one more way that could work.
Go on.
Is if you play all of our podcasts under their pillow. Put the phone under the pillow when they're asleep and then just subliminally it will drip in.
Yeah.
I don't know if that works, but
Well,
there is
actually,
something in
it's
that.
funny you say that, Hamish. Like, when people ask me this question, I say, give them the Sober Awkward podcast. Listen to it from the beginning because all of the information is in there. Everything that you need to do and your partner needs to do is in one of those podcasts somewhere. It's like a little treasure trove.
Yeah. Let us have the difficult conversation with your partner so you don't have to.
Exactly, yeah. Just slip them the Sober Awkward podcast.
It's
There
only
you go.
60 hours to catch up on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I could do that.
Probably
a couple
more
of
than that
days.
now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dear, oh dear. It's all there. It's all there. Listen to it. And it's really good. I think it's quite good, don't you?
I like it.
It's the best podcast I've ever listened to.
Yeah, I've listened to every episode.
I really like that girl on it.
Lucy.
I don't like the guy. No. Someone actually, I'll tell you this very quickly. I saw my mum yesterday and she said, "Oh, I saw my friend who loves your podcast." She said, "But she really, really misses Lucy." Yeah. I said, "Poor Hamish, you can't say that."
I'm glad they said it to you and not me.
I said, "What can I do about that?" I said, "Lucy's not here anymore. I can't do anything about it. I had to get Hamish on board." It was last resort, I realised. Actually, I did have a lovely day with Lucy the other day and she's doing really well. She's had a big trip over to England and had a sober Christmas with her family and actually had a good Christmas because, you know, Lucy hates Christmas, but she actually had a lovely time. So she sends her love.
I reckon we do one with her every year. We did the Christmas special last year. I reckon we have another check-in with her soon.
Yeah, she just had her birthday and I think her sober anniversary. I think she's over 2 years now, which is amazing, yeah. So hello, Lucy, if you're listening.
Nah, she's not.
No, she's not. She hates us.
She taps out the minute she steps away.
She didn't like you either. Thanks for listening. If you're questioning your relationship with booze, you're struggling to moderate, or your hangovers are causing anxiety, it might be time to reach out for some support.
Yeah, just talk to a mate about how you're feeling, contact a local doctor, find an AA or sobriety group. Vic's got one.
Yeah, just head to www.cuppa.community.
Remember, if you're questioning yourself, it might be time to seek support.
Even though this journey can be awkward, it is definitely worth it. And if you've enjoyed the Sober Awkward podcast, don't forget to review it, rate it, and share it with your mates.
Do they have to share it with their mates?
Yeah, of course they do. I'm not doing this for nothing, Hamish. Bloody hell.
How do they share it?
I don't know, just write it on there.